Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Housing Digital's Customer Experience Digitisation Masterclass. My name is Joe Broon, Managing Director of Housing Digital, and it's great to have so many of you joining us today. Over the next 2 hours, we'll be exploring how housing providers are using technology, data, and AI to improve customer experience, not simply to just reduce costs, but to build better services and stronger relationships with residents. We have 3 fantastic case studies from organisations taking very different approaches, but all with one thing in common: putting the customer at the centre of digital transformation. Throughout the session, please feel free to post questions in the chat. We will have a dedicated Q&A session after each presentation, as well as an opportunity to ask the panel more questions at the end as well. So let's get started. Our first keynote comes from Vico Homes. It's a joint presentation from Rachel Felix, who is Head of PMO and Change. She's leading major transformation programs across the organisation and helping turn strategic ambitions into practical delivery. Joining Rachel is Pete Beaumont, Director of Customer and Neighbourhoods, responsible for customer services and neighbourhood operations with a strong focus on improving resident experience. Together, they'll be sharing how Vico Homes has transformed the way it serves its customers, and a presentation entitled From Contact to Connection, Vico Homes' Customer Experience Transformation. So Rachel, Pete, over to you.
Well, afternoon, everybody. My name's Pete Beaumont. I'm the Director of Customers and Neighbourhoods at Vico Homes, and today myself and Rachel have the pleasure of talking to you about our journey to improve customer experience through digital transformation here at Vico Homes. We've got a really positive journey so far. And this is a really fantastic opportunity to showcase some of the great work we've been doing in recent months. And hopefully the presentation today provide some inspiration as to the improvements that can be made to your offer through investment in technology and channels for customers. So next slide, please, Rachel. So a little bit about our strategy at Vico Homes. We're committed to being a leading provider of homes with positive impact, and we believe the biggest social impact is through the safe, warm, and high quality homes we provide. But with that being said, we know we have to service these homes and support the customers living in them effectively. And to do this, we need to invest in a high quality customer offer. Underpinning our strategy is our customer experience plan. And this focuses around being able to provide better access to support, better access to services for our customers throughout our growing operating area. Like many providers, we've faced increasing challenges, customer expectations, rising demand, and the challenge is to maintain high quality services in a rapidly changing environment that we're all experiencing at the moment. Our customers are no longer comparing us against other housing providers, but against the digital experiences they're receiving from other large organisations across multiple sectors. Customers expect services that are simple, accessible, responsive, and available to them when they need them. And that's very similar to the services that they can expect from high-performing wider sectors such as banking, energy providers, wider retail companies. So, I mean, our story today, you'll be pleased to know it's not just about technology for technology's sake. It's more of a case study about how we're using digital innovation to create better outcomes for customers, provide better tools for colleagues, and a stronger, more resilient organisation, better equipped to support our customers, which is of high importance to us. Next slide, please, Rachel. So for us, the challenge was clear. I mean, how do we modernise our services whilst remaining true to our purpose and ensuring a consistent offer for our customers throughout our operating area? We've developed a digital roadmap. We align this to our strategic approach and to our values. And a fundamental component of our vision is around providing experiences to be proud of. And whilst this sounds simple, it's required us to fundamentally rethink how we interact and engage with our customers, how colleagues can deliver services, and how we can use technology, process and data to create value within the organisation. And we recognised early that digital transformation is not just a technology project, it's an organisational change programme, and it touches on culture, on service design, customer engagement, colleague capability, on data and leadership. And with our values being caring, confident, united and ambitious, we've made sure that they've been embedded throughout every step of this journey. So the most successful digital change happens when teams work together across across boundaries, and that's exactly how we've approached it. A significant catalyst for our transformation was a customer experience review, and this identified several challenges for us within the organisation, including operational pressures, inconsistencies with processes, improvements that were needed to customer journeys, limitations in some of our technology, and gaps in knowledge management, and opportunities to improve proactive communications with our customers. So rather than viewing these challenges as barriers, we've seen them as an opportunities to redesign our service and our offer around customer needs, streamline processes, and importantly, build stronger digital foundations for the future. If you could just, next slide, please, Rachel. So this led to the development of our Customer Connect programme and a clear vision of where we wanted to get to. We established our current state, defined our desired future state, and created a phased delivery roadmap of enhancements to improve our offer. We embedded colleagues in leading and delivery of working groups to support each area of new functionality that we've introduced. And this helped to establish buy-in across our teams, but also successful implementation come launch of new features within the business. A key milestone on our journey was the launch of our new customer portal, which was in May 2025. And Rachel's going to touch on more on this shortly, so I'll not steal her thunder, but this was replaced our legacy platform with a modern, secure, scalable foundation for customer self-service and a real positive position for Vico Homes to grow and improve from. We set out clear measurables for success for the project and evidenced some real positive improvements in key areas of performance, as you can see on the screen there, driving much more effective calls handling, a significant improvement in our grader service, reduction in abandonment rates, and maintaining really high levels of organisational satisfaction, which is of paramount importance to us. I think importantly, we never lost sight throughout this process. The digital transformation is about customers, but it's not solely about customers. It's equally about supporting colleagues and how we can use technology to remove barriers to more efficient ways of working within the organisation. Our ambition is to provide colleagues with the right tools, information, training, and support to deliver the best possible services for our customers. And by streamlining our processes, building in automation, improving access to knowledge, we're creating capacity for colleagues to spend time doing what matters most, and that's supporting our customers and our communities. That creates better outcomes all round and job satisfaction for colleagues. So definitely a win-win. Next slide, please, Rachel. One of the most, I think, important lessons we've learned from our journey is that successful transformation must be customer-led. Too often it's easy for organisations to build solutions, then ask customers what they think of them afterwards. And I think we wanted to reverse that approach. We've established customer focus groups, we've involved customers in testing new areas of functionality, and we've gathered feedback directly through surveys to customer portal users. The dedicated survey achieved just under 500 responses. It provided some real and valuable insight into their current use and functionality within the platform, the satisfaction levels, and any gaps from a customer perspective in what they would like to see that perhaps we haven't delivered as of yet. And importantly for us, we've acted on what they've told us. Customer feedback has influenced future enhancements, including expanding repairs reporting functionality, developing a new mobile app, introducing web messaging within our customer portal as a new channel of choice. And this ensures our digital offer is evolved around customer needs rather than organisational assumptions. So to tell us a little bit more about some of the new areas of functionality, I'll pass over to Rachel, and she can guide us through some of the real positive things that we've introduced recently. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pete. So I'm just going to touch on a little bit more of the detail in terms of how we've achieved some of the transformation. I'm head of business change. I look after all of the portfolio of projects at Vico Homes, and change has been a really important part of this process. And as Pete touched on, it's not really just about the technology, but how we've got to where we are today. So Pete's already mentioned that a big part of the journey has been our customer portal launch. But just for a bit of context, it goes back a little bit further than this. So we did start a larger program of work around implementing Salesforce and Amazon Connect about 4 years ago now. And it was really important to us that we got the customer record right. And we've really been able to build on the foundations of that ever since. So the reason we built our customer portal, our current customer portal, is because we wanted one single view of the customer. So prior to that, we'd already launched CRM using Salesforce, and that was launched right across the organisation back in 2023. And we've got about 600 users currently using Salesforce across the business. So we did that. We also implemented Amazon Connect as a telephony provider, which links with Salesforce. So over time, we've built up this customer record. Now, our legacy customer portal was unsupported. It was quite old. The technology wasn't going to take us where we wanted to be. So given we'd put the building blocks in place with Salesforce, we decided to go with the Salesforce offer for customer portal communities. So that's what we did. And we launched the customer portal in May 2025. And I have put some stats up on the screen, so I won't talk through those. But we've been really pleased with the success that we've had. We've saved nearly 10,000 calls into the contact centre through people being able to create cases. There's lots of things you can do on there, logging repairs, checking your rent, all the usual stuff, updating personal information. And we've got a lot more to build on this. But essentially, it's kind of got us to where we need to be in terms of those foundations. And as you can see from the stats in front of you, it's starting to slow a little bit now. So we had a bit of an influx at first, and it is dropping off. So I'll talk through some of the enhancements that we're going to make over the coming months. I also just wanted to say this was achieved in around 9 to 12 months with a very small team. I know some of them are on the call today. Denise, Brian, hello, and thank you to you for all your work on this piece of work, because it was a fantastic team effort and we couldn't have done it without everybody involved. Okay, so as Pete touched on, we launched our Customer Connect project soon after we'd gone live with the portal. And this was to pick up on other digitisation. We had lots of staff and colleague voices asking us what we could do on Salesforce. They were really, really keen to bring in more functionality. So Customer Connect was a project that ran over around 9 months and launched various different features to support the Salesforce developments and to improve our customer experience further. So we did quite a bit within this project, not all of which is covered on this slide, but a couple of the highlights that I just wanted to touch on were some particular successes we've had and are continuing to have. One of them is around launching a Visual Remote Assistant, VRA. So essentially, this is a tool whereby our teams can send a text message to a customer. They can open a video up within their phone, and we can record a video or screenshots. So we started to use it for diagnosing repairs. So as you can see, there's a little picture of the light switch there. It helps people at the end of the phone try to diagnose quickly what's going on in the customer's property. We only started off with 5 licenses for this, but quickly it's become really apparent that there are some huge efficiencies to be had using VRA. So it's kind of snowballed and it's really quickly taken off across the organisation. So we started in our contact centre with the 5 licenses, and quite soon our aftercare team came knocking on the door and said, oh, we could really, we'd be able to use this for snagging in new build properties. Now, part of our ambition over the next few years as a housing association is to expand and take on more properties. So what has happened is we're now operating outside of our original operating area, and colleagues having to travel further. So we've implemented this in the aftercare team, and it's saved 4-hour round trips in some cases where staff were having to drive out to have a look at repairs and diagnose snagging issues. And since then we've thought, oh, well, if we can use it for that, we might have some other use cases. So we're shortly going to start using this for checking documentation. So in our allocations and lettings team, if we need to see a passport, for example, we don't want to be driving for an hour, 2 hours just to go and check someone's passport or ask a customer to come in and show us. So we're going to start using it for checking documents. And then other teams have been in touch saying, well, why don't we start doing some video calls using it rather than going out to visit customers that may be in arrears, for example. So that's the next trial. So this one has been pretty cost effective, but has really snowballed and has created some huge efficiencies. And I think we're only just scratching the surface with VRA. Another thing we've implemented, and I think we touched on AI at the very beginning in the introduction, and it's something I'm sure everybody is starting to look more to use widely across their organisations. We've introduced AI call summaries for our contact centre. So essentially this uses Amazon Connect technology to transcribe the calls, and essentially AI will then summarise those calls, which, as you can imagine, it's taking quite a bit of time for our contact centre. And some of that has really helped with some of those benefits that Pete mentioned earlier, ensuring we can provide a greater level of service and we can answer more calls. So this has only been live for the last 3 to 4 months. So again, this is something we will probably roll out across the organisation to anybody that's speaking to customers moving forward. And we've seen some really strong benefits really quickly. And again, lots of people have been involved in this project. I think Laura, project manager, is also on the call, so thank you to Laura. We've done other things like web chat, we've done some stuff on Salesforce optimization, and it really is a continual process for us, this. Even though it's a project that's shortly closing, it will continue on into our CI work stream. Something else we've done that I thought was probably worth talking about, because it might not be something that others have done, and it's been quite successful for us. So it's not directly related to technology, but I think having Salesforce in place and making sure our customer record and CRM are strong has enabled us to launch a customer census. So we launched this in January this year off the back of the consumer standards requiring us to really sort of understand the diverse needs of our tenants, and having that information so that then we can tailor services accordingly. And everybody, I'm sure, will know that, you know, we're all aiming for a C1 when the regulator comes in, and we really thought we needed to do something about the state of our customer data. So essentially we use Salesforce to launch a census, and that captures things like vulnerabilities, EDI information from customers, any protected characteristics, language barriers. And a lot of this stuff hadn't been refreshed for quite some time at Vico. So we made quite a bold move to bring in some agency staff to essentially call our tenants to gather this information through Salesforce. And we also put an option out onto our customer portal. So we've got just over 33,000 households now, and we have captured data from nearly 17,000. In fact, I'm sure that probably is up to 17,000 now. Tenants. So it's been a huge refresh, and it's really going to allow us to keep on top of that customer data moving forward. And again, continually make enhancements to our customer portal so that customers can update any details at all themselves moving forward, and keep us posted on people moving in and out of their property if they need any reasonable adjustments. So yeah, not sure who else is doing this in the sector, so it'd be really, really good to hear from people if anyone's doing anything similar. But it's been quite a bold move and quite a big project, but our data is now in a much better place. And then just in terms of moving forward, so we thought Customer Connect might be done at the end of phase 2, but we've decided we'll do a phase 3 and then move it into continuous improvement. So Pete mentioned the mobile app. So that is something that we're going to be doing next, starting mid-August. And workforce management, something else we're putting in. So we're using our current technology stack around AWS and Salesforce to look at workforce management, particularly in the contact centre. So that will look at where we've got gaps, where we could be more efficient, try and automate some of the rotas, that sort of thing. And again, all of the data that's in our CRM and Salesforce platform will inform what's best there and give us really good data. We're also looking at digital tenancies. So we're not doing this yet. We're quite paper-based at Vico around tenancies at the moment. So we are looking at tenancy terminations and sign-ups going digital, again, through Salesforce, and we're looking at a partnership with DocuSign to do that. And it's something that we've wanted to do for quite some time and will really improve our customer experience. Some little bits and pieces around making sure that everyone across the organisation is using these platforms in the same way. And I think it's safe to say, as a lesson learned, that's probably been one of our biggest challenges. You can launch a platform to 600 people. It doesn't mean everyone's going to use it. And I think we've had to put quite a lot more training and adoption support in place than we originally thought. And that is ongoing all the time. So I think that's been our number one lesson, really, that change piece and adoption piece is super important. And unless people get it and want to do it and don't have any other option to do it, then it can be really difficult. So we're putting quite a lot of time and attention into that for phase 3. And then we'll be doing some more around data collection and making sure that all that data we've collected can be reviewed, and we can review that in an automated way. So Salesforce can support us sending reminders to customers, updating reasonable adjustments and vulnerabilities, all sorts of things like that. So we don't lose this great effort that we've put in around that. There's lots of other things on our roadmap. Obviously, we're focusing on customer transformation today. One of the other things that I haven't put on our slide is we are about to embark on an ambitious project called Key at Once, which will support a lot of the work we're doing on Customer Connect, but essentially it will put most of our case management throughout the organisation into Salesforce with integration into our housing management system, which is currently Open Housing. So that's been a big challenge in terms of not quite getting everything end to end, and that's really our focus to ensure that we can create efficiencies for the teams. And so finally, just to say that the project that we've done, we're really proud that it was shortlisted for Best Digital Transformation at the Northern Housing Awards in May. Unfortunately, we didn't win, but we were just glad to be nominated. And so, yeah, happy to take any questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rachel, and congratulations on being a finalist for the awards.
Thank you.
Really interesting that. Thank you, Rachel and Pete. I think it's obviously it's about a lot more than just technology, isn't it? And I think some of the results there that you published around calls answered, reducing abandonment rates, achieving a customer satisfaction of more than 92%. I think should be recognised and applauded. Have we got any questions for the team at Vico Homes, guys? I'll start with Sarah. Sarah's got a comment in the chat. So Sarah O'Neill is a non-executive director at North Devon Homes. Sarah says customer consensus is really interesting. Would like to know more about how you achieve this.
Okay, yeah, I can take that one, no problem. I will say it was really difficult to begin with. We had quite a lot of data, particularly around vulnerabilities that hadn't been reviewed for many years. Thousands of lines of data. So there was quite a project prior to launching that census to really kind of understand how we were going to segment customers, look at the different data sets. We were a little bit worried that customers might not want to give us this information over the phone. It's quite sensitive, some of the information. So, yeah, essentially, we've taken it day by day. We have done a lot of pre-work on what we should be collecting, because I think there are two sides of the coin on this one. There's the GDPR aspect, and then there's a regulator saying we need to know our customers. So I think there's a really fine balance between what we should and shouldn't collect, and there's lots of conflicting views on that. So we consulted with many other housing associations, and Pete and I were sat on a task and finish group for probably 18 months prior to the project, just to make sure that what we were collecting was the right thing to do. So yeah, from there, we essentially worked with our implementation partner, Alcient, to design us this census form, which has got lots of reporting behind it. I will say we thought we would have more customers filling it in through the customer portal, but it has, because it's nothing that people really want to do, it's meant that we've had to call them to get the answers. I think we've had about 80% via phone and 20% via the portal, so less than we thought. But more than happy to share any details if anybody wants to know any more on that. But it is ongoing, and it's something that we'll continue with to make sure, as I said, the data doesn't then become obsolete again.
I don't think it's any surprise that 80% over the phone from what I've heard before. Georgie, can you introduce yourself, full name, job title and company, please?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Georgie Squires, Head of Customer Experience at Havebury Homes. Nice to meet everyone. That was really interesting, Rachel. Thank you very much. I just had a question again about the census, because we're currently doing something very similar at Havebury. And we've noticed that the online interaction hasn't been quite the same as we have with targeting via the phone calls. Something that we're noticing as part of that is that we're still not always able to reach residents via the phone. You know, they might want to not give the details, reschedule back. I'm just wondering what your approach is to those residents that aren't wanting to spend the time and give their details.
So every question that we ask on the census, we did put a prefer not to say option on, because I think from the initial few calls that we've made and from research that we've done previously, we knew there were going to be people that just didn't want to give us this information. We did take the approach that we can't force people. We're trying to get to about 70%. That's our sort of target benchmark. And once that happens, I think we've got our agency staff until September. And we think we're going to be comfortable then to be in a position to just hand that over to BAU. This was more about getting the bulk of it. Something started, the bulk of customers contacted, but we've been fairly relaxed about those that don't want to. We have used something called campaigns in Salesforce to automate some calls that we've made. And we give them we try customers 3 times. And if they don't answer after that, then we don't contact them. But yeah, that's where we are with that one.
We also took a bit of a decision, didn't we, Rachel, that we wouldn't make the portal form compulsory, because we toyed with that idea that when someone logs into the portal, we might make it compulsory pop up that they would need to sort of complete the census before being able to move on. But that's a decision that we took, and that's probably had some impact on whether it not being quite as successful with getting as many completed on there. But that was a decision that we took at the time.
Yeah, we've done a very similar thing where exact same approach. We're doing two contacts 2 times, 2 different methods as well, whether phone and email. If we're not able to reach, we're sort of leaving it as unsuccessful contact as well. But I think not everybody's going to want to, are they? So that's also understandable. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgie. Mark.
Hi, Mark Cantrell, editor of Housing Digital. I was struck by how you're planning to, try and move towards digital tenancies and stuff like that. So I was interested in hearing a bit more about that. I mean, my thinking here is, I don't know if this is me being old school or digital savvy, but how would it work with a tenant having a secure copy of their tenancy agreements and documents themselves? Would it end up being stored on the phone, which is a device which can be easily lost or something like that? I mean, I'm like thinking I personally would want a paper copy stored on file, or at least a PDF stored securely and remotely on my own machine that I can back up and file. So how would that all work from that kind of perspective?
I think, yeah, I think the plan that we'll do with the infrastructure changes we're hoping is that our frontline officers, because at the minute obviously everything's very much paper format and quite a laborious process for the teams to be getting this information. So the changes that we're making is there'll be a form that will be signable by the customer via our mobile functionality, which is through Total Mobile. That'll then store a copy of it signed back in our systems, in our document management system. So that would be available for the customer to have a signed copy of that. We'd be able to get that to them, so it wouldn't be just saved on the device, as you're saying. Similarly, with like future iterations, that might be that we'll be, we're hoping at some point to be able to store documentation in our portal as well. So this is where so the customer be able to log into their account and have access to their information through the portal for information such as not just for the actual tenancy agreement, but also around digital sign-up packs that we're looking to provide for different property types as well. So there's some of the areas that we're looking to address. But in the interim, the fact that it'll be signable through Total Mobile and then automatically store, that will save on printing and scanning for colleagues operating out in the field.
That account, it kind of like their dedicated account. They've got access to it. You don't necessarily have access to their private data and storage there, that sort of thing.
Sorry,
I think just on the security element, I think with the customer portal, that's kind of what we're trying to do in terms of making sure you can access documents through that so that you're authenticating yourself before you look at any document. But I think it's safe to say, Pete, isn't it, that what we've done at Vico, we are not going down a channel shift route. It's more channel by choice. And we're really keen not to make the decision to shove people. We want people to choose how they want to transact with us, so there will definitely be that option available if somebody really wants a paper copy and that's their choice. That's not a problem to us at all, and I think we've been really clear on that, haven't we, and had a lot of customer feedback on that.
Good stuff. Thanks for your question, Mark. Got a question in the chat from Jamie Heaton, who's head of marketing for social housing at Arion. Jamie asks, what are the limitations or issues with data from Salesforce to your open housing platform?
Good question. There are some limitations. I think where we're at the moment, we are currently upgrading. So we are looking at the newest version, which is version 19 that we're moving on to. We don't use any sort of middleware platform at the moment. I know quite a few people have started to use the likes of MuleSoft for integration between Salesforce and housing management systems. We don't do that. We use point-to-point APIs at the moment. So as it stands currently, we have chosen to surface various different elements of data from our housing management system. So we spent a lot of time developing our data model when we first implemented Salesforce to almost kind of mirror or work well with our housing management system. So we've chosen sort of what to bring through, and we have various levels of integration. There are challenges. I think there are challenges with some of the APIs that are available, or in our case, not available. We are actually looking to go into a pilot with MuleSoft in the next few months to see if that will help us. But because we are kind of transitioning from the current version of our housing management system, it feels counterproductive to do that right now until we've made that move. And we are also looking to move everything to the cloud in terms of housing management. So again, until we've done that, we'll reassess at that point. But we do have a fair level of integration. It could be a bit slicker and a bit more modern, but again, I think that is due to the version of the housing management system we're on, which will change.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. We've got one more question from the chat, which comes from Charles. I'm going to try this round. Tugendhat.
So I think we're in the same position as you, that we've done the very good exercise of updating our data. We're up to about 50%. We've got a process which increases it very slowly, maybe 0.5% a month. But in terms of then exploiting that data, I'd say we're still at a very early stage. We did a whole piece around designing reasonable adjustments. We've got a process to accommodate those. We get maybe one a week, something like that. So that's all well and good, but it's not very ambitious in terms of exploiting, a really rich data set. Have you got clearer ideas about how you want to use that data set to design your services?
I think one of the things that we're focusing on, as well as we're collecting the information around vulnerabilities and reasonable adjustments, we're looking to then embed across our frontline services throughout the business where they should be looking for the information that customers are providing us, how they should then reflect that in their service delivery. And I think that's going to be embedded within a new program of customer service training throughout the organisation, just to kind of reinforce how they need to apply the new sort of policy and procedure that we've put in place off the back of the census collection project that's well underway. And then we're going to be going through a process of reviewing the adjustments that are in there, ensuring that they're being applied consistently, making sure that reflecting any information that's coming through on complaints, if they're not being, if reasonable adjustments are not being embedded as they should be across service areas, so that we can learn and improve on that front. So there's quite a lot of work that we've got to do underway, and a big bit of work that Rachel and team have got to do around providing the necessary infrastructure for us to report on it accurately, ensure it's maintained up to date and refreshed accordingly throughout the business as well. Don't know if you've got anything to add on that, Rachel.
I would just say that it's really hard. I would say that we've been through exactly, it sounds like what you're going through at the moment. And when you haven't just got one system, which I'm sure no one on this call has, we've all got multiple systems that we're working from, it can be really difficult. So if a customer's saying, I want a letter in log print, for example, how do you then duplicate that across all of your systems and make sure there's a consistent experience? So I think that's been the challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge, and we won't get it right first time. But I think we're sort of building on process by process. And as you say, Pete, that customer experience training will really try and push that data mindset, because I think there's a view in all organisations, if you have a central team running a project, it's like, oh, the central team will deal with that problem. But there's a cultural piece, I think, around data and how everyone's responsible for that. And that's what we're trying to do in terms of that change and adoption piece.
Very quickly, we've got a minute before we have to move on. Quick question from Denise Bryan, who is the director over at Brightive.
Hi, hi Rachel and Pete. Just a quick question. I'm interested to find out more about the mobile app and how it provides. Does it provide any more capabilities, and what are your expectations in terms of additional take-up?
Yes, it does. So I think what Pete was saying about the customer voice was the overwhelming majority of customers want a mobile app. And I know you were part of our project team, so you know a bit of the stuff that we did, and we decided to go sort of MVP with the customer portal, and we didn't do an app to begin with. But as we've collected more and more customer data, that's what they want. And one of the main reasons for that was they really don't like passwords and complicated passwords, so they want facial recognition. So that's one of the main drivers. And push notifications was also quite high on the agenda. So the initial stage will be to move what we've got over into the portal, but with these two pieces of real kind of key functionality that customers have asked us about. And we want to do a bit more on the kind of you said we did front. So yeah, that's what we're doing later on this year.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rachel and Pete. Okay, we're going to wrap things up, I think. I'd like to thank Rachel, Pete, Steve and Kevin for sharing not just what they've achieved, but also the lessons they've learned along the way. I'd also like to thank our Housing Digital stakeholder partners for supporting today's event. I think today's presentations have demonstrated that digital transformation isn't simply about implementing new technology. It's about using technology, data and innovation to create better experiences, make better decisions and ultimately build stronger relationships with residents and communities. Hopefully everyone watching leaves today with at least one practical idea they can take back to their own organisation. So thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to welcoming you to another Housing Digital event very soon. And I'll just take this opportunity just to mention the Housing Innovation Show, our 2-day conference and exhibition at the ICC in Birmingham City Centre on the 4th and 5th of February next year. Registrations open on the 1st of September. Do check those out. It's housinginnovationshow.co.uk. It is free to attend. I hope to see you all there. Other than that, thanks everybody. Thanks to everybody who attended, and hopefully see you soon.